just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it? Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? Because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like we're not going to frack. We're not going to take fossil fuel.
Did you ban offshore drilling?
Yes, there's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking.
Things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. The worst vice president in the history of our country.
It's been almost 24 hours since Donald Trump's last Truth Social outburst, which seems like a record for him at this point in the campaign, but Donald Trump cannot keep those tiny little fingers silent and quiet for that long. And so he decided today to take to Truth Social and posted an insane video, which, as they always do whenever Donald Trump says or posts anything, blew up in his face for one specific reason that his campaign continues to run away from, and that's his failed record. It was only a reminder of the damage Donald Trump did not only to our democracy, but to our economy during the time that he was president, something that Donald Trump wants to pretend actually didn't happen. We hear so much talk about, were you better off than you were 4 years ago from the Trump campaign? But the answer is a resounding yes for everyone, because 4 years ago, Donald Trump was mismanaging a pandemic that was taking 3,000 American lives a day, and he didn't seem to care. And so Donald Trump posts, as they always do, not doing too well for him, and we are going to get into all of that. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already, to hit that subscribe button and join the movement that we are building on this channel, it goes a long way and really means the world to me. Now, like I said, Donald Trump trying to push this message, trying to make this case, but it's not working, especially with the call out that Vice President Harris delivered of how unstable Donald Trump is in this clip right here.
Trump is increasingly unhinged and unstable. And in a second term, people like John Kelly would not be there to be the guardrails against his propensities and his actions. Those who once tried to stop him from pursuing his worst impulses would no longer be there, and no longer be there to rein him in. So the bottom line is this. We know what Donald Trump wants. He wants unchecked power. The question in 13 days will be, what do the American people want? Thank you.
Now, I thought it was important that we hear that clip from Vice President Harris before we got into the video that Donald Trump posted, because I think it is important context, not only for the argument that he is attempting to make that his administration was some great success, but the argument that his next one will be even better. It doesn't make any sense. First of all, Donald Trump was the worst president in American history already, without needing a second term to accomplish more destruction. But what VP Harris is hitting on there is so important, and we talk about it with reference to Project 2025 as well. It's not just the bad policy that Donald Trump wants to implement, it's the fact that he will be surrounded by his cultists and will only be empowering them more because Donald Trump won't have any checks on him, not from Republicans in Congress, certainly not from the Supreme Court, and he won't have any from those around him, unlike he did in his first term. So if it was already so damaging, then imagine how destructive he could be now. And that is the scary but important point we have to continue to make, and it runs counter to the argument Donald Trump is trying to push, especially in this video he posted right here.
I just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it? Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? Because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like We're not going to frack. We're not going to take fossil fuel.
Would you ban offshore drilling?
Yes, there's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking.
Things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. The worst vice president in the history of our country.
So there are several flaws in that campaign ad from Donald Trump, the first of which is that the Biden-Harris administration hasn't been successful. It has been one of the most historically successful administrations in countless regards. Job growth, an exploding stock market, and economy crime is down. We are investing in American manufacturing and infrastructure. I could go on cap the cost of so many prescription drugs, making life more affordable for people. So that is one flaw in this argument. But the other one is that, Donald, we also remember your administration in that failure. You were president too. You were the one who should be held accountable for your failed record. And that was perfectly called out. And the reason why this backfired is because of what President Obama had to say right here.
But when I hear Donald Trump talk, I keep on, he's very quick to say to Kamala, well, you were vice president 4 years. Dude, you were president for 4 years. As I recall, you were up there in the Oval Office. So if rounding up and deporting millions of desperate people, many of them who are women and children, if that's the answer to everything, well, why is it that the number of undocumented immigrants were basically the same when he left office as when he took office? He didn't solve the problem, and I'll tell you why. Because he does not have a real plan. He has a concept of a plan, and it's a mean and ugly plan designed to foster resentment and divide people. You know what would actually bring order to the border? Help fix our immigration system? There was a bipartisan deal just a few months ago.
Donald Trump wants to pretend like he was an already president, that he didn't already have the power to fix the border or to grow our economy or invest in American manufacturing and making sure jobs aren't shipped overseas. He failed at all of those things because he doesn't want to solve problems. He just wants to complain, and he's increasingly more unchecked and unstable. And so we know nothing is getting done except for action that would attack the middle class and only benefit the top 1% in giant corporations, Donald Trump's friends. Of course, that is the plan now. And that's what the plan would be if he were to win the presidency. And so this argument falls so flat, especially as we see, like I said, a more UN out of control and unchecked. Donald Trump, as Eric Swell perfectly called out in this new ad, right here.
We were so worried.
They're eating the dogs.
He wasn't making any sense.
The people come in. They're eating the cats.
And he just kept getting worse.
They did dumps. That's what they call them, dumps. Big, massive dumps.
Gross.
In Michigan and Pennsylvania, all over.
We had to do something.
They will take the life of the child in the 9th month. Even after birth, they'll execute the baby.
You sound crazy right now. Then a friend told us there was somewhere he could get the help he so desperately needed, called A Place for Trump.
Person, woman, man, camera, TV.
Now he has round-the-clock support and can enjoy the things he loves, like eating cheeseburgers and rage posting at 3 a.m.
I know windmills very much, and they're driving the whales, I think, a little batty.
Sure. So this November, let's vote to put him in A Place for Trump, because we all know he belongs in a home, just not this one.
I have concepts of a plan.
Of course you do.
If you need a good laugh, that it certainly does it. I think that's even just like the baseline representation of Trump, I think, probably behind closed doors. He's even crazier at this point, but it's not, again, what he's saying now. That is only thing that should be concerning us. It's what he has said in the past, and an admission about what Donald Trump has said was made here by his former defense secretary, Mark Esper.
Of course, the incidents I recall is that he was very troubled by the fact that we would have America's wounded warriors out in public, and he did not like that. And I had a couple instances where, we'd have to have that discussion, and he would, he just thought we should conceal them. And our view was, my view, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, was that these were America's heroes, and it was important to show the American people and their colleagues, by the way, in the service, that when our heroes come home wounded, that we take care of them and that we will be with them all the time. And they weren't something to hide in the closet, but in many ways something to hoist up and to celebrate as, again, people who served our country, who gave all for our nation.
We have seen this reporting before in The Atlantic, but it is even more damning now that it is being confirmed by Donald Trump's defense secretary in Mark Esper, who is admitting what Donald Trump really believes, that he doesn't want to be seen around wounded warriors, wounded Americans who sacrificed for our country. And it's because Donald Trump doesn't understand the concept of sacrifice. All he wants is credit for things that he hasn't done, and he wants to avoid accountability for the things he has done. That's his whole mantra. That's what he's all about him all the time. And it's not just his disdain for our military. Of course, he wants to use it to attack and abuse his political opponents, and Donald Trump clearly thinks that's okay. He wants to be a dictator. He looks up to those, as we've seen in new recent reporting. But it's also apparently what's the belief over at the Fox propaganda outlet, because they're defending what he's saying. Take a look.
What the president wants. And then you factor in the fact that he runs his own company, coming from the business world, the first one we've ever had. It's not even a public company. And then he obviously has frustration. And I could absolutely see him go, now, you know what? It would be great to have German generals that actually do what we asked them to do, knowing that's a third, maybe not fully being cognizant of the third rail of German generals who were Nazis and whatever. But he was frustrated with the slowdown of...
He's saying that he wants to be like Hitler. You're defending this because he's a businessman. What I know it's their job. I know their job is to push his propaganda, but this might be the worst of the only thing that can make me feel better is knowing that at 5 o'clock, Jessica Tarloff is going to shut all this nonsense down over at Fox, and we're certainly going to call it out as well, and we're going to every single day. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. You can leave a like on this video, and if you're stuck around at the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.